Hey, what's happening everybody? Welcome back to another video. Pragmatic Addict here. So we're going to be sitting down looking at the new religious satire, Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. So I was really interested in this movie for a number of reasons. This is a religious satire, which is something you just do not see really ever. It is also worth mentioning that this is produced by Jordan Peele, and not only Jordan Peele, but also someone that he works with very often that we've become very familiar with, Daniel Kaluuya, as well as being produced under Peele's production banner, Monkey Paw. Which I just gotta say, seeing the Monkey Paw banner before this movie started, it felt so weird. It'd be like if you saw the Blumhouse Productions logo before you see a religious satire. And also with having a personal spiritual and strong religious background as myself, yeah, again, just I do want to address also, this is not a Christian based or faith driven comedy. It's not that. Again, this is a satire as well as a mockumentary of sorts. But yes, guys, with everything being laid out on the table, let's get into Honk for Jesus. Also, I do want to flex. I just finally got my Nope shirt in. Whew, man, perfect timing. So Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul centers on a very well-known and initially respected couple that lead a Southern Baptist church named Lee Curtis and Trinity Childs. When the husband, Lee, is slammed with sexual allegations against him and their following and lives are altered because of this, the film shows us this couple in their lives as well as a couple individually, and also as these once respected leaders of this church, how that all plays out and results as they work toward trying to regain their lives and rebuild their congregation. So what I want to note immediately more than anything in the film's intro at least, is the film introducing us to this couple of the Southern Baptist community. The following they have, how the film displays that, as well as just the cinematography as well. In a lot of different ways, all of this stuff is very exceptional right off the bat. The film does well with being a satire as well as a mockumentary of sorts, and that is, hugely thanks to both its cast, Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown, as well as the directing of the film. There are a lot of different camera angles that flow just right for this type of movie, and for its specific feel that, really capture just the right kind of atmosphere. It does shift back and forth throughout the movie as well through a lot of different kind of directorial styles, again with this, also being half mockumentary. Again, it just felt really perfect for this movie because, again, yes, Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown, they are just, characters in a movie. But these characters in this movie are also trying to rebuild themselves from the ground up after these allegations, and they are essentially documenting the whole thing, and that is where the two kind of directorial styles come into play. We see a lot of where it's kind of handheld, again, like mockumentary. It just felt natural, and again, for this film's, kind of tone and background, I just feel like this was a nice original idea to kind of take this, cinematic kind of approach. Now, Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown's performances, as this couple who are, well known and have this certain level of congregational following, they are really well cast in this film. They are both very likable, very believable, and are given a lot to work with. And I think that Regina Hall, specifically, with the experience that she has in comedy, obviously, the parody films like Scary Movie and everything, as well as, her more recent dramatic roles such as Master, I think that, she did a lot with this film. And that goes into what I want to bring up next, which is that this is not just your straightforward comedy. It has a lot of comedy in it, and when it has the chance to focus on that, it really does. But it does have a lot of very controversial and mature subject matter in it as well that, again, like the comedic moments, when, these more dramatic moments are brought into the front and center, the film does extremely well with that. And that goes back to my thoughts on the film with its directing formulas. As well as being a religious satire, as well as being a mockumentary, this is also a lot of a character kind of study. Like any allegations against somebody, there is going to be that side, that fall under the category that these allegations are false. And that is a huge piece of this movie. Is that, yes, after these allegations against Lee Curtis, their following is, hugely affected and they are pretty much canceled. But that small side that is actually on their side, saying that these allegations are false, they are involved hugely in this movie. Which falls into the documentary kind of side of this movie where, these people are being interviewed, stating how impactful that these people were, to their lives and how much they actually helped them as people. Now, I will say this film does have a lot of really well done and interesting and unique things to it. And also, as an original film, I think that the film does really well with that, as well as juggling and tackling these different tones and subject matter. But I will say this though, one thing that I think the film could have done a lot better with is actually fleshing out these characters', history and background. Things are touched up on and addressed, but it feels, at least initially, more than anything, more for just kind of like setup purposes. And while I do think that the film does well with everything I talked about earlier, I just think that this couple's history and background could have been more descripted and more fleshed out. And again, a lot of things in this movie are done really well, but I would go as far as to say that that is almost like the missing piece to actually making this film, a lot more smoother and structured. And that is that, there just isn't enough build-up, to these characters, or really introduction. I will say now, though, that this is kind of like one of those films that, as it goes on, it does kind of lose its streak, and it does kind of like, start to slow down, where the film does introduce a lot of different and successful aspects to it to begin with. And with all of these, components and where the film's, center theme is in general, this really only had the potential to be just, a very standout and, very creative picture. But there just ended up being a lot of filler, to the point where, the movie just didn't really seem where it wanted to go next. And don't get me wrong, some of the filler does work. We see these characters, personal lives outside of the congregation, as well as, the mental sides that this, subject has, kind of taken a toll on them, and how it's actually turning them, as people individually. And that's another thing, is that it's not, really brought to the center. It's not, fully, the center focus at all. But again, as a character study, I think that it does really well with that. And again, there are, some good moments of filler, but because of, a lot of, very slow and just kind of missed opportunities in, other points of filler, I feel like those good moments, because of that issue, they just weren't as strong as they could have been. But also, I will say this now, we do start to see a more serious take on the film as we do get further in. That I would say that this might be, the moment where we do see the most out of Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown's performances. There are a lot of gripping moments that I want to say are almost, portrayed in a more, cryptic and kind of, tense way. Which I think is extremely necessary, because instead of the film, leading toward, a more specific thing, that kind of, leaves the audience having to decide for themselves and, deciding what they lean, more toward. Which I don't think, is only necessary, but, for a film, with these kind of, controversial, topics, you really have to, flesh things out right and properly to, really make it work. And I will say that overall, the film at least tries to do everything necessary. We see many tones as well as many directorial aspects. The film does even work in, fleshing out these characters, from, individually, how everything has turned them as people, again, individually. We also see, behind the scenes, how things are affecting them as a couple, as well as just, yes, outside of the congregation. Now, I will say this, again, while I do think that Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown are both, incredible performers in this film, Sterling K. Brown's character specifically, with, the kind of weight that he has on him, and with the audience left, to decide what they personally want to believe is actually going on, he does so very well, portraying a person whose, life has collapsed, who, initially was a very well-known and very respected, leader of this church, and trying to hold it together because of his image, as well as just, being a man of faith, trying to, rebuild things in the best way that he can, regardless of the allegations and circumstances of everything. Again, I do think that the film does well with, portraying these characters, after this kind of, subject has affected them. And I think that the film does well, with giving a variety, centering on that, just how people would deal with this. Again, whether it's their individual lives or them as, in their relationship or, in the sense of the congregation. Again, I just think that it's, the filler and lack of deeper, characterization that, kind of prevents this movie from being, more, say, heavy or, impactful as it, could have or should have been. And now getting to the ending of the movie, I will say that the film has an interesting reach, to say the least. There are many callbacks to the original short film that the movie is based on, and I would actually go as far as to say that, not just how they actually, write the ending here, but the route that they actually choose on, for, you know, a focus for the ending, I would actually go as far as to say that it left me really just kind of turning my brain off and just really being, you know, engaged in it. I was more or less glued to my seat, you know, just really wanting to see how, you know, everything would play out and seeing what, you know, these two characters' endgame was going to be. But I will say this, though. Getting toward, like, the last act of this film, there are a lot of weird, you know, and this is a very weird criticism, but it has a lot of weird, you know, camera shifts that I feel like were, you know, made to kind of, you know, display something in a certain, you know, view, or maybe have the audience center on a certain thing in a certain kind of, like, you know, mindset. But to me, it was just very distracting. I didn't really see what the film was going for. I just, you know, I would have been fine with just watching this movie, you know, conclude as it was going to begin with. And I don't know, I just feel like it was a really weird choice of cinematography. But how the film does conclude, I will say it does stick with you. I would say that the most that I maybe gained from it was that, you know, it really does capture you. It doesn't pull any punches. It doesn't, you know, hold back at all. And the performances here, especially Regina Hall, oh my gosh. I think that this might be the most that Regina Hall has, you know, ever given out of her career. This might be the best film that she's ever done. And there are still some moments, you know, where the film does kind of, you know, break the silence, and it does have those kind of, you know, filler issues that I talked about earlier. But overall, guys, I'm going to give Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul a mixed review. I'm going to give it a solid 5 out of 10. Again, I thought that this was a really original movie. I thought that it tackled, you know, or at least, you know, tried to do everything necessary to make it what it could have been, especially in its own right, you know, with all the different material that it tackles. But just, you know, a lot of the filler just on and off throughout the movie, a lot of the weaker, you know, characterizations towards these people that should have only just been, you know, the deepest lengths, I feel like the movie kind of missed out on. But yes, guys, that is going to do it for my review of Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul. Are you guys looking, you know, forward to this one? Are you guys going to check it out? It is in theaters as well as on Peacock if you guys do have that streaming service. But let me know what you guys, you know, thought of the video as well as the movie down below for those that did see it. Thank you guys, as always, for watching this. I really appreciate it, guys. I will see you guys next week in a lot of movie reviews. There's a lot that comes out next week. We got House of Darkness as well as Barbarians, Speak No Evil, Pinocchio, as well as more Beavis and Butthead. So I will see you guys very soon with a whole lineup of videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you guys are having a great night. I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.